having a lot of symptoms. I have Crohn's disease, so it would have masked all my symptoms. I ended up in the emergency room for Crohn's disease, and they did a CT scan, which is obvious is, you know, like protocol. And the doctor came back in, just looked white in the face, and he said, hey, we found something on your CT scan. And I'm in the emergency room, and I'm thinking like, yeah, I have Crohn's, you know, like nothing shocker. And he said, I found a mass on your right kidney. And he said, I'm not allowed to say anything, but it looks like it could potentially be cancerous. I was like 29, almost 30 when I was diagnosed. So they said it was really rare. And having 2 little kids, like you have 2 little kids and you plan on their life and their graduation. You don't plan on going to the hospital one day for bleeding ulcers and turning out that it's a very serious cancer. He's like, I want to get to the bottom of this, and since you're here, we're gonna run more tests. And so I was with my grandma, and we just looked at each other and started crying because we were just not expecting that. And so they ran an MRI and an ultrasound. On the 2 of the 3 tests came back that it's probably benign, but the MRI came back that is most likely malignant. And so because of that, he's like, we need to get you into a neurologist like ASAP. But the problem was my Crohn's disease had flared so bad. I was so sick, I ended up in the hospital for about 3 weeks. And after that, I was put on infusions and everything just because I wasn't healthy enough for surgery to even find out if it was cancerous or not. So I had to wait months until I could physically go through the procedure to have it biopsied. I knew it was cancerous. Deep down, I just knew. For some reason, I just knew. But everyone around me was like, no, like 2 of the scans said that it could be not cancerous. So we're just going to go with that. Everyone's just trying to be positive. But deep down, I just knew. When it came back as a renal cell carcinoma with clear cell and papillary cell. So I went and saw the urologist, and he said, honestly, I've never seen someone so young that has the clear cell and papillary cell. He said there's people out there that have it, but it's vast and few in the country. So it's like, okay. So I'm like, what do I do? I have a baby who's a few months old. I just had a C-section. They must not have noticed it during the C-section a few months prior. Like, what do I do? And he's like, well, you're lucky they found it so early because of your Crohn's disease. Because otherwise, he said, if they would have caught it months later, it would have not have been good. I was still at the point where I still wasn't even healthy enough for a surgery. He's like, we need to gather a team together, the oncologist and the hematologist and your GI doctor and your primary, and we need to get everyone together to get you healthy as possible because we need to get this thing out, because the longer it's in, like, we don't want to risk anything. So they wanted to try a cryoablation to freeze it off, and they said if that doesn't work, they're going to have to go in and cut it out. And if it's looking like things are just a mess in there, they're just going to remove my right kidney. The cryoablation was fairly new. They had to have a specialist come in and do it because they haven't really done a lot of those at the hospital I was in. I had to do my surgery under a CT machine, which is very weird for me because they had to literally put a map on my back of where it was and then constantly put me in and out of the CT to make sure that they were hitting it properly with their probe, the tumor on the kidney. Because it was small and it hadn't enlarged and it hadn't reached my lymph nodes at this point. They had to put like a balloon next to my kidney because where the tumor was at, it was like sticking out of the bottom right of it, and it went through a major nerve, which is hard to see on scans. And so they had to put a balloon there to try to avoid the nerve. Unfortunately, they did nick the nerve a little bit while they're in there. So I had temporary numbness on my whole right side, my whole right hip, through my right thigh. So that area was numb for about 1.5 years. And then I finally started getting feeling back. But honestly, they were able to get the tumor, so the numbing was like the least of my concerns at that point. Because they caught it so early, I was able to avoid chemotherapy and radiation. But I was put on like heavy steroids that mimicked that and a very strict diet. My Crohn's flared up again, and I ended up getting my little ostomy bag. After every surgery, they biopsied the organs they take out. So after they removed my whole large intestine and the appendix, they opened up the appendix and they found a small tumor in there, which was very similar to the tumor of my renal cell. It wasn't clear or papillary like my renal cell, but it was definitely malignant. And so then I went back to the oncologist and they ran a full panel of genetic testing to see if I was susceptible to any other tumors, because at this point, this is 2 tumors in a few years span. There's no family history, which is a complete shock. The test came back fine for the genetic testing. So it is literally, I think that is very uneasy feeling for me to this day is not knowing. Like, I'm like, if that can happen so easily, like, what else can happen? Is it going to come back? What is causing this? They don't have any markers to go back on to see, like, oh, this runs in your family. Oh, you have this DNA. Like, you have these things. Like, they don't have that. It's still confusing to me to this day. And it's just bizarre. The last few years between the cancer and the ostomy, like going through all that, I haven't been fully present with my kids because I've been in and out of the hospital. There's times I spent weeks in the hospital, times I spent months in the hospital. So just not being there for my kids and having that structure and stuff has been really hard. And my daughter, my youngest, is a few months old. I think she was like 7 months old at the time. Just the thought of her not growing up and not knowing who her mom was and only seeing pictures was the hardest part for me during this whole experience. Honestly, I think just like mentally and just the thought that I could go through that again or it could come back and I wouldn't know about it till later on, and having 2 young kids is really hard. And I think that's why they hammered it hard so fast, because they're like, she's a young mom, her kids won't even remember her at this point. So I think just reminding myself where I was and where I'm at today, remind myself to just, at the end of the day, no matter what happens, if it comes back, if it doesn't, just to be the best mom I can be. I feel like it's redirected me as a person and it's challenged me as a person in a positive way, where I really like have buckled down and focused what's most important in my life. And so it's really helped me get my priorities straight. But at the same time, like, I miss, you know, like my daughter's like first 7 weeks of school, preschool. There's so many things I missed out on because I was like in the hospital getting surgeries, or even when I was home recovering and too sick to get out of bed from medications and being weak and all that stuff. There's just so much I missed on in their early development. And that's something I'll never get back. So I just have to just make the most of it now and just keep moving forward. Because I'll never be the same like I was before, especially with like my bag now. I mean, I can't do things now that I was able to before. It's comforting knowing that because of my bag, I got another tumor out that was cancerous. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, let's not have any more pop up. I think it just really makes you stop and reflect on life and how you want to live your life, and how you want others to perceive you, and how, if you want to make a negative impact or a positive impact, and if you're going to have a bad attitude or a good attitude. So it really helped me self-reflect on how I'm going to start living my life after my diagnosis.